YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. Just before week 14 in the NFL, I got my MVP ladder going over offensive, defensive MVP, and both offensive and defensive rookie of the year. Also, in just a second, we'll go over all of our players of the week from week 13 here at the GOAT House, and we will go over who you guys voted for your player of the week. We do this every single week. Right before we get started, we got extra content on the Patreon, playoff predictions, score predictions, mock drafts, all of that updated every single week and part of one package deal. Playoff predictions, score predictions, those are up. Mock drafts are on the way for this week. And then we're trying to get that 40K subscriber goal. We're getting pretty close, but we're getting close to the deadline as well. So please help us out by subscribing. Go ahead and click that like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. Link in the description for that. Players of the week. All different ones across the board. You guys voted for Deshaun Watson. The final in the voting was Deshaun Watson versus Cameron Jordan. It's a shame that Cameron Jordan didn't make his way up here because he had a great day. But my pick was a no-brainer for me. Devontae Parker not only had a monster day, but that was really one of the better receiver performances I've seen in a long time. And people will go look at, stats-wise, which he did have incredible numbers. But I think people, when they're talking about, the best receiver performances they've seen this year, I think they're going to go, most people are probably going to go point out the most amount of yards that somebody had. But this game was ridiculous. He was actually covered pretty well for the most part. It was just insane contested catches, one after another, big play after another. It was unbelievable. This is Devontae Parker I saw at Louisville. This is that prospect, that first-round prospect we saw at Louisville. And he is finally playing to that ability this year. It's very interesting, too. Like, what type of receiver? We kind of thought of him maybe as a bust, and now we're talking about him as a guy on the rise and what he could become, and that game was ridiculous from him. So, no-brainer for me, even though some other guys were really good. Picked him with Taysom Hill. Like I mentioned, his teammate Cameron Jordan could be up here. I would call him the defense player of the week. But Taysom Hill did pretty much everything you can ask from a football player, and some, because you don't really ask too many players in the league to do the amount that he can do, offense, special teams, and he does it. That's just an all-around football player. Very impressive game on Thanksgiving. Danny went with Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith was everywhere in that game. He's a middle linebacker, and he's a phenomenal blitzer. Racked up 2 sacks and was all over the place, tackling machine. Junior went with Josh Allen, another Thanksgiving player here. That was absolutely dominant. And what I love about Josh Allen is the obvious improvement. And it's just not, sometimes we see it looks kind of fluky from players, but it's obvious improvement, getting a lot better. This guy's going to be special. And then you guys voted for Deshaun Watson, as we broke down already. Appreciate you for voting. It was Deshaun Watson over Cameron Jordan in the final there. If you want to vote in the future, we have polls on the community section on our channel. If you go to our channel, click the community tab, you'll see them there. If you just turn notifications on, you'll be notified when the polls go live there every Tuesday. Offense MVP, so some changes here. Lamar still stays at 1. Russell Wilson stays at 2. Christian McCaffrey 3. But the gap to me is becoming bigger, I think. Lamar is hands down the MVP to me right now. And then Russell Wilson's got to be hands down number 2. Christian McCaffrey's got to be hands down number 3. Now we got Derrick Henry sneaking in there. Over the last few weeks, he's been the best running back in football, been absolutely dominant. I had him ranked 5th out of running backs going into this year. I got ripped for that, but we're starting to see what I've been seeing from Derrick Henry and the improvements I've been expecting. The guy's an animal. He's an animal. It's one of those running backs that I wouldn't want to try to tackle. I'd rather try to go up against one of the speedy guys, than Derrick Henry. And then Deshaun Watson, number 5, after a big clutch win over the Patriots. Big-time playmaker, Deshaun Watson, that he is. He sneaks in there at number 5. Dalvin Cook's been up here all year, getting hurt in that last game and having to fumble while the other players are really on the up. Kind of made him fall down, but easily can get back in. Really helped the Vikings kind of get turned around. But earlier in the year, we were kind of thinking, all right, Dalvin Cook playing this good really turned around the Vikings. But now we're starting to think that it is the case, but along with Kirk Cousins playing better. So I think it's kind of multiple players in the Vikings that is the reason for their success right now. Unlike, a guy like Christian McCaffrey that, for a lot of the time, I feel like he's really carrying that team. Like, it's insane. So those are my top 5 offensive. Defensive, throughout the year, been back and forth. For the most part, I've had Zadarius Smith at the top. I think he's very underrated and a dominant player. and he does so much for the team, and I think he's the glue of that defense too. But Shaq Barrett makes his way back to number one. The first half of the season was his bright spots. Then he started to still play well, but not as good. But now, again, the last couple of weeks, he's really picking it up. He's all over the place. He's responsible for great plays even in the secondary, or a Devin White interception this past week. It's crazy that the Broncos had Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, and Shaq Barrett, and they didn't really use Shaq Barrett too. So he's been unbelievable for them this year. And in the beginning of the year, in the beginning of the year, every year, we always get some random guy up there in sacks or any stat category, and it's kind of fluky, but that doesn't look fluky to me. He looks like a damn good football player and getting better and better every week, it feels like. Cameron Jordan makes his way to number 3. It's a guy that's been very consistent and very, very good his whole career, and you start to kind of wait for that time to, not for him to take a step down, or maybe a little bit, maybe not play as good as he has been playing. We're kind of waiting for that, and it's still yet to come. It feels like he's playing even better right now, which is crazy. Dominant performance like that on top of a dominant year puts him up to number 3. TJ Watt, second half of the season, has been unbelievable. A big reason the Steelers are right now a playoff team. That defense, and it starts with TJ Watt. That was Cameron Hayward's defense for so long. And you could still argue that he's the number one player on that defense, but it just feels like TJ Watt is the biggest game changer on that defense. And Stephon Gilmore, who I think is the best corner in football still, is I think hands down the best corner in football, is number 5 on my defense MVP ladder list. Now we're on to the rookies, and rookies are staying the same. I didn't see any reason to change anything here. Really impressed with A.J. Brown. We added him to the list last week, and he's been dominant. Seems like the Titans' best receiver in terms of getting open, catching the ball, and then run after catch is ridiculous, which we saw at Ole Miss. So no surprise that he's that good. I kind of thought going into the year that he had a very good chance of being the Titans' best receiver, and he is. Big reason the Titans are really stepping it up right now. So he's at number 3 after a big game. He could definitely hop Kyler Murray here. Rough game for Kyler Murray last week, but I didn't see any reason to drop him overall. And then DK Metcalf still 4. Marquise Brown 5. It's tough leaving Terry McLaurin out because the first half of the season was excellent, but he's starting to, I guess, a little less production. Deebo Samuel strongly considered 2. Miles Sanders starting to pick it up. David Montgomery, some of those running backs, those guys are starting to pick it up. But the offensive guys stay the same, and then the defensive guys stay the same as well. So a little boring if you watch last week to this week. Same thing here for the rookies. Bosa and Allen are the clear top 2, and those guys are in a battle. Then there's a bit of a gap, and then the next 3, among other guys too. I mean, Brian Burns started the year off really good. Ed Oliver is a guy that's coming. He's coming right now. We've seen Devin White because he had the injury. He's kind of climbing this now too. He's a freak athlete, does everything on the field, everything you ask him, and he's every single week he's playing better ball. And we see that the Buccaneers defense is playing better ball. I think a lot of it is Devin White, really. And so the 2 Devins are pretty much on the same board there. And like I said, Ed Oliver, I think he's coming. He could be sneaking in here. Max Crosby has been super impressive. Look like they got a gem with him. The Raiders, that is. Nick Bosa and Josh Allen are at the top, dominant players. Josh Allen actually has 1 more sack than Bosa. Bosa, overall, to me, has been a little more of a factor impact, but pretty darn close there. So Nick Bosa stays at the top. Pretty quick video breaking this all down. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Who would be at the top of your rankings for MVP, defensive MVP, and then the rookies of the year. Appreciate you guys voting for your player of the week. I love doing it. Love to see who you guys vote for. Sometimes you guys surprise me, so it's very interesting. But appreciate you guys for watching. That's going to do it. Goodbye.